JoJo Kinuan Boken, or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, is my favorite anime. And you might have noticed on my channel because I've made references, JoJo references here and there, but I've never actually sat down and talked about this show. Now, why have I not done that? Well, mainly because my audience is not really the anime type of audience. So, you watching, before you click away, please give me a chance to convince you why you should watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. When I started JoJo's, I was very against anime as well. I was the anti-anime gang, and I was so cool because I hated anime, and everyone else was a loser. Everyone who watched anime was an absolute loser. But now, I've changed, and I kind of see why people like anime.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side!
Wait, there is still anime out there that I look at and I'm like, why would someone with the right mind watch that? I really don't know why people enjoy slice of life, but whatever. So I've given Attack on Titan a chance at that point. I've seen One Punch Man, and some friends on Discord told me that I had to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And the characters looked so goofy and so weird, and the music was so good that I had to try it. So, that's my story. Now let's start yours. I'm going to give you reasons why you should watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, starting with the very first one. From the get-go, Season 1 or Parts 1 and 2, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure shows that it's very, very unique and, well, yeah, just as this title suggests, very, very bizarre. And this is what attracted me to JoJo's in the first place, and it certainly is funny. In one of the first episodes, my favorite character of all time, Will A. Zeppeli, punches a frog out of nowhere without killing it. I thought that was so funny, and there are more things in parts 1 and 2 that are incredibly funny, but it's not the only thing that's unique about JoJo's because other anime can be very bizarre as well. What? What the fuck? The thing that is very unique is the art style and the music and the narrative. The first narrative, part 1, is not that unique, but parts 1 and 2 are, although hard to get into, not really that bad. They fight with Hamon and have many abilities that are very interesting and cool to look at, with new things being introduced every once in a while. Vampires that have more abilities than vampires would in, say, Twilight. I never watched Twilight, but I'm pretty sure JoJo's is better. Parts 1 and 2 are by no means bad, but they kind of only scrape the surface of how good JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is with the Hamon powers. If you like abilities, you're probably going to like parts 3, 4, 5, 6 a lot more. Now let's get into abilities. Now Hamon is cool, but stands are way cooler. Stands are a manifestation of one's soul, so the abilities that they gain have a lot to do with who they are as a person. Someone who is very selfish will have a power that can satisfy their needs, or someone who's very helping, like Josuke, has the ability to heal others. It allows us to see things that we wouldn't see from that character otherwise, for example Polnareff's honor, or Kagyoin's loyalty, as just to name a few things. I don't want to name too much since I don't want to spoil you. I'm trying to convince you to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The abilities are also incredibly entertaining in a fight, and they make the fights as good as they are. Since the fights that you see are meant for the people that are fighting, in fact, it's not like, well, anyone could have beaten that bad guy. No, specifically that character was meant to beat that bad guy. And the fights are so entertaining. And it just makes you wonder, what if? What if someone else was fighting that character? Would it be easier? Would it be harder? Often it would be impossible. But that is what makes JoJo so unique, since these puzzle pieces often fit together so well. But if this doesn't really interest you, you might get interested in the next reason. Music. The music of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is beyond any music. The music is very characteristic and also brings the vibe of the part or the story overall of the character into the story itself. For example, a very popular one is Giorno's theme, this one. I'm pretty sure you've heard it everywhere, but this song is absolutely genius for Giorno. I am going to give you a minor spoiler here why Giorno's theme is so great from a narrative standpoint as well. Skip to this time code if you want to avoid it, but I can guarantee by the time you get by part 5 you'll probably have forgotten me. So, you can trust me, alright? So basically Giorno has the DNA of both Jonathan and Dio. And this means that he has 2 fathers and he also has his own personality to deal with. All these 3 personalities are represented in Il Vento d'Oro, or Giorno's theme, very well. The guitar represents Dio's energy and evilness. Guitar is often matched with evil, a lot of people call metal evil. I beg to differ, but it certainly sounds evil. So this represents the energy that Dio gives off. Then we have the piano, a very classic instrument, and also very epic, just like Jonathan. It's also a very gentle instrument, which is very cool for Jonathan. Jonathan is a gentleman. And then there's the saxophone. The saxophone can be epic, but it can also be charming. So it can be both Dio and Jonathan. This is Giorno, and the way the guitar and the piano and the saxophone are all fighting with each other make for an incredible theme that are so well played into each other. You can't help but love it. You can't help but praise it. But honestly, you could take any character's main theme and it would work for the character. For example, Okuyasu is very stupid, but he's very strong. And he's always rushing into a fight. He doesn't always know what to do. He just acts recklessly. And that is represented with the guitar. It's also like the guitar is trying to tell a story simplistically, but failing. It's not a very complex guitar solo you're hearing, it's just a few riffs. And after that, it's just going back to the main chorus. And speaking of music, the openings of JoJo's don't disappoint either. Not by a long shot. I would call them the best openings in anime overall. They're constantly changing based on what major event is taking place in that part or in that certain event. And they also have little Easter eggs or some really cool interactions with the main villain. Now, if you are one of those people that likes to skip intros, I have to advise you very strongly to give JoJo's a little bit more of a chance with their intros. They change pretty often, but most of the time they change in the first episode, somewhere midway through the part, and then in the last few episodes. So just something to look out for. The music in there is also great, the lyrics represents what is happening in the story, the visuals obviously do the same thing, and overall the openings just give you the vibe that you were supposed to feel. For example, in Stardust Crusaders, the first intro is just very cool and badass. The second intro is a lot more mysterious and epic. It also has a little clock ticking in the beginning, which is very cool if you know what I mean, if you know why it's ticking. I'll just have to let you find out for yourself. So openings are a very big part of the narrative. And speaking of narrative, that's the very last thing I want to look into. Just to make sure that you know what to expect at each part and that it's worth to keep going, I'm going over every part and telling you exactly kind of what you can expect without major spoilers. Part 1, Phantom Blood, we follow Jonathan Joestar, which is an Englishman in a very rich family. He and his adopted brother get into a feud. They get into a fight. They both learn their own abilities. One is evil, one is good. It's very obvious, and it's a very cliche story. What this specific part does well is representing what the title is suggesting. It is very bizarre, it is very unique and very funny. If you go into part 1 with a very serious mindset, chances are you're not going to enjoy it as much. Also, Jonathan is not even that interesting of a character to follow. He's kind of just a goody two-shoes, and if you don't like that, you'll probably not like him. But oh my god, is Dio a blast of a character. He is so evil, and I love him for it. Part 1 is very short, but it's certainly one of the weakest, and also the music isn't even that great here. The opening is very cool, and the outro is very iconic and even a meme, but apart from that, part 1 is not even that great. But hey, it's only 10 episodes, so you'll get through it in no time. Part 2, Battle Tendency, has the best flowing story in the anime, in my opinion. The part 2 is very different from part 1 in many ways, but it also makes a lot of callbacks. It's even kind of nostalgic at times, and the main character, who is an American Englishman called Joseph Joestar, is incredibly funny. He is charming, he is hilarious, overall he's very goofy, but he's also kind of the Uno reverse card of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. constantly predicting what the enemy is going to say. And it makes for some really funny interactions between Joseph and his enemies, where you know where he's won. If he's saying, well, your next line is, you know it's over for the enemy. And it makes for some very interesting fights and very entertaining things to watch, but also this part can get pretty dark and sad at times. I found myself really liking this part and also kind of wanting to stay in this part for a little longer, since it's also only 10 to 11 episodes. I don't remember exactly, I'm not that big of a fan. But it's a really, really good part. In my first watch I didn't appreciate it as much as my second or third, but I think it's worth to at least watch part 2 out as well. Going over to part 3, Stardust Crusaders. Now this is a monster of the week kind of feeling. Every single episode you get introduced to a new enemy and they have to fight off these specific abilities. It's kind of like One Piece in a sense. We are following a group of characters with certain abilities that run into certain enemies with certain abilities. So just like you'd watch Luffy fight, I don't know, anyone, you now watch JoJo's fight anyone. And it makes for some really interesting stuff and really cool fights, but apart from that, the narrative is not that strong until the very end, and the very end is very good. You obviously have seen a lot of memes about it. I still won't show you too much of it, because I don't want to spoil you, but also, the main character is not as interesting here. This is where the side characters truly start stealing the show, and this stays the same for the upcoming 2 parts. But one thing that the protagonist does have is an incredible theme. Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, is my favorite, but Charlie, Most Critical's, least favorite part. And that has to do with the fact that we are not really getting anywhere in the first half of the part. We are just getting introduced to the characters and their friends. They fight some other characters and become friends until we are introduced to the main villain. And oh my god, is he a show stealer. The main villain, I won't name him too much, Shikage is so good. He is up there with Homelander, Thanos, and the Joker from The Dark Knight. It is an incredibly well written character and he's so interesting to follow. And one thing I appreciate about JoJo's, and part 4 does this better than any other part, is how we follow the story of the antagonist as well. We start to feel a little worried for the antagonist, but obviously at the end of the day we still hate him because he wants to kill our favorite characters. And yeah, in good old fashion, here is the main character's theme again. It's not even the best in my opinion, but yeah, have a listen to it. Part 5, Golden Wind, is very famous for Il Ventodoro, Giorno's theme, and overall just Giorno as a character, but I don't even think Giorno is the best part of Part 5. I think the best part of Part 5 is the side characters and the flowing story that it has just as Part 2. I don't like the antagonist as much as Part 4 or Part 3's antagonist, but he is still pretty cool with an awesome banger of a theme. But Part 5 is definitely a lot of people's favorites, and I can see why you would think that. I don't know where I would put it on a tier list, but it's a very interesting and also referencing pop culture kind of part. Stands named after bands, them referencing songs and bands themselves, and overall just fashion references. It is so incredibly cool. Overall, this is something you'd see in JoJo's. Overall, just the posing, constant posing. It's not just something they do because JoJo's is gay. It's kind of like a serenade to fashion, because the writer himself has a very, very big connection to pop culture. But overall, Part 5 is a blast. Also great fights, and I would definitely recommend you watch Part 5 as well. Basically, I would say watch any part, but I think a lot of people would choose Part 5 as their favorite. So yeah, it's just a matter of opinion. And Part 6, Stone Ocean, which is the last in, and now at least the animated parts, has a really good protagonist. Well, it's my favorite. And this part is for the girls, like Part 3 was for the boys. Part 6 has a lot of female characters, and I think it's great. Well, we are on the female side of the prison, so it makes sense. And we follow a pretty isolated story in the beginning, and later it starts getting bigger and bigger. I think if you liked part 3 and part 4, the chances of you liking part 6 are very big, but if you didn't like those two, chances are you might not like it as much. The antagonist is good, better than part 5's antagonist, I think, but it's still not the greatest antagonist. He's kind of annoying at times. I mean, I appreciate seeing his side of the story a lot of the time, but overall, part 6 antagonist is nowhere near as good as Yoshikage, Kira, or Dio. The ending of Stone Ocean will have you in absolute tears, and overall, it's just a very good ending to the episodes we have now. Although I do hope that part 7 does get animated at some point, better soon than later in my opinion, because I have not really gotten through the manga yet, since what I said before, the music is amazing in the anime. You don't really have that with the manga, so that's kind of why I have a hard time getting through it, since one of the most amazing things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the music, and I absolutely love it. So it's kind of hard for me to get through the manga. I feel like I've said what I wanted to say about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I hope that I could have convinced you to go watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It really is one of my favorite animated shows of all time, and I recommend it to anyone who likes art, music, cool fights, cool characters, anyone who just likes good things in shows. It's kind of hard to get into if you're not really an anime guy, and even if you are an anime guy, the art style is very unique from other anime, so this anime almost feels like it's not really an anime, since it's so different from other anime, but also has some references to it. I absolutely love everything about JoJo's, just like I love almost everything about you. I want to thank you for watching my videos, and if you feel like it, you can subscribe and become a member today. Otherwise, you can also just leave a like and a comment and I'll be happy as well. Thank you so much, and see you in the next one. Cheers.